My name is Joel Williams, and I'm a Z1 Motorsports sales advisor, and I specialize in the Z32 platforms. I'm your go-to guy for any and everything 300ZX. This is my Z32 that I've been working on for many years now. I've had two. Yeah, I had an original one I bought back in about 2007. And then I wrecked it at Barber Motorsports Park for Z Nationals and got this other shell out of our parts yard and swapped all the parts over. And then here we are, many years later. I had a white Chevy 3500 dually that was on airbags, and it was lowered, and the suspension was not quite maintenance friendly. So I decided that wasn't practical for a kid just out of high school. I wanted something else a little faster, a little more fun. So turbo car was on my mind of some sort. And everybody wants the Supra, but nobody could afford one. But the 300ZX, it's a twin turbo. And that kind of popped up on my radar as an obtainable turbo vehicle. You could find them at that time for about $5,000 to $10,000 on Craigslist, which is where you bought cars back then. So I found one, went and looked at it, paid cash, drove it home from the other side of Atlanta, realized immediately that the clutch was slipping. So I bought a clutch, tried to do that job myself. I think I did a decent job for not knowing anything about Z32s at the time. But then I had an injector failure and some other stuff that was kind of above my head. So brought it out here to Z1, realized that they actually were 20 minutes from my house. Been looking at parts on their website for a couple of weeks at that point and realized that they were just right down the road. So drove out here, dropped it off, had an injector replaced. Apparently, when I tried to do the injector connectors on it myself, to repair this job, because you read on the internet what makes a Z32 stumble and stall, immediately everybody says injector connectors. So I was like, that's easy, change some connectors, piece of cake. No troubleshooting, no diagnosis, just let's throw a part at this thing and hope it fixes it, which is the wrong approach. But you do weird stuff when you're 18 years old. In me doing that, I burned out the injector driver on the ECU because I forgot to unplug the battery while I was doing it. And one of the connectors came loose. And I remember seeing it arced out on the upper plenum, and that was it. So bring it to Z1, they give me a new ECU, which happened to be an upgraded ECU instead of a stock one. So paid the core charge, upgraded ECU, they fixed my hesitation. I literally rolled out of this parking lot with probably 70 to 100 more horsepower than I rolled in it with, which was exciting as an 18-year-old. You're like, holy smokes. Barking first, second, and third gear on the way home. I'd never done that in a car at that point in my life, so that was exciting. And that was the day I was sold, the day I rolled out of Z1 with a proper running Z32. Because before, I could give or take, whatever. It wasn't that exciting of a car. It was kind of cool. Wasn't running well. But after it was running well, man, night and day difference. I was sold. Barber was Z Nationals 2011, something like that. Very intimidating track. It wasn't my first time there. I'd been there before. We were going around the very last straightaway, kind of coming around the carousel towards the start-finish line. And came up over a hump, car got light, spun out, hit the wall. Was able to drive it off track took the front bumper off, straightened out the bent tie rods that I had. Didn't really feel like, troubling anybody to trailer it home for me, so I straightened out the tie rods and was able to drive it home that day with a mirror slapping the door the whole way home from Barber Motorsports Park. This was 1 week after I hit a deer and totally rebuilt the car top to bottom anyway. Yeah, so the new car I ended up buying from Russell, and it was a 92, and my car was a 91 without airbags. 92s came with airbags, so I didn't want the airbag system or the dash or the steering column, any of that stuff, so I ended up swapping all of my 91 parts, non-airbag parts, over to this one so I could build a lighter chassis. That was the entire intention of it. And basically kept all the same interior parts from my old car as well. Dash bar, believe it or not, is different. You gotta change the dash bar, steering column, all of that changes with airbag and non-airbag models. So lightened it up, stripped all the sound deadening out of the car while I had it taken apart. It was torn all the way down to bare shell. All the paint was really rough at the time. So once we stripped it all down, I took everything over to my brother's shop, who is a painter, and me and him painted it ourselves. It took a while to decide on the color. We were picking a lot of different Nissan colors, and BMW had just come out with a brand new Secure Orange Metallic for their M4 line, and it was kind of the wildest thing I'd ever seen. My brother was doing body work for a BMW dealership at the time and was familiar with the color. We did a couple of paint samples, and it was kind of a bold move. Wasn't sure if it was gonna look great or terrible. It was gonna be a roll of the dice, and we went with it. In my opinion, it looks great. Now let's start with this. This is a 300ZX. It's a 92 model, twin turbo, manual transmission. It has a built engine, stage 2 bottom end, I guess, if you were to put a stage on it, stage 3 heads, if you were to put a stage on it. GTX 2860 RS turbos, which are pretty spooly but have a little bit of lag. They have enough to deliver on top end. 740cc injectors, full 2.5-inch intercooler piping, 2.5-inch inlet piping, dual intake. Let's see. The suspension is all SPL control arms in the rear. We have Z1 front upper control arms on and in the front. We have KW variant 3 coilovers. The differential is a Tomei 2-way clutch type differential. The clutch I run is a RPS Max single disc, nothing too crazy. My entire plan for this car is always keep it simple. Don't reinvent what already works. Let's use the products that are there. Let's use the products that are proven, and you can make power without, building a spaceship, basically, is what this car is all about. Ended up making 598 on pump gas in the middle of June on one of our hottest weeks of the year. So a little cooler weather outside, it probably makes a little more. Body kit is Bomex side skirts and rear bumper. The reason I want to mention it is it's kind of like a hodgepodge of different body stuff from all these different places that I've put together. So the side skirts are Bomex, rear bumper is Bomex. The diffuser is from Abflug or ABFlug, however you'd like to pronounce it. Spoiler is a Veil side. The front bumper is Escort Racing, and the hood is Escort Racing. So all pretty much sourced from Japan independently. They all come from different places, from different people. Takes a lot of effort to get all these, Japanese parts in one place that we don't sell here in the US. Well, that was the entire, I wanted it to look, like a car would in Japan. The whole inspiration behind this car has always been, those old VHS tapes, the option magazines, and full on just Street Fighter. It needs to be able to do a little bit of everything. It's gotta go fast. It's gotta go fast sideways. It's gotta go fast in a straight line. It's gotta look good while it's doing it too. They're all about, looking good while they're, performing over there in Japan. So Yeah, that was kind of where the inspiration came from. It's got JDM fog lights on it, JDM turn signals, all of that's wired up properly to work as a Japanese car would. So all the subtle details. The only thing I'm lacking is JDM headlights, which anybody knows where I can get, what is it, the left hand that's discontinued. Yeah, I'll take it. So I've got all SPL suspension in the rear. Took a lot of effort to do. There's not a single piece of rubber left in the rear suspension. And that's all to minimize and reduce, really eliminate wheel hop as much as possible. The reason I did that is because I had wheel hop that was so violent. I used to just drive through it. As soon as you get wheel hop, let's just hammer it down a little bit more. It'll smooth out, it'll hook up, we're good. I had so much wheel hop that I broke my radio bezel in half previously. And that was the point where I drew the line and I was like, I don't care what it costs. We're getting rid of this wheel hop. And so yeah, broke a dash in half, causing me to do SPL suspension for everything. And guess what I don't have anymore? Wheel hop. Yes, this car tries to kill me about every other time I get in it. It's frightening. I mean, it's analog. Like it's full, no holds bar. There's no traction control. There's no driver assist, no stability control. It's manual transmission. The clutch is aggressive. The diff's aggressive. Sometimes the ABS doesn't work because of the two-way diff. Sometimes you'll get in the car and the ABS sensors just can't synchronize or whatever it is that they need to do, and it'll just turn on the ABS light, which means you have no anti-lock brakes. So 600 horsepower car with no ABS, yeah, it tries to kill you every doing that. Future plans with this car, that is a tough call because very rarely does anybody ever reach a point where they're just, like they're done with a car. Like nobody ever finishes a car, that's the running joke. And I kind of feel like I'm really at a finishing point as far as where I want to take it. Now, with that being said, I do have some maintenance to do. There's some, race car parts are good for control and performance, but not always the best for longevity. So some of these parts have been on here for the better part of 8 or 9 years now. So they need to be, redone. I got to go through all the suspension in the rear. That's my next goal. Put in updated SPL arms, get rid of the earlier versions that are on there. We're going to donate those to the S13, which is going to come in another video, I'm sure. But we're going to put the brand new arms on here, refresh all the bushings in the back, and then it's ready to roll. Ooh, these are Ray's G Games. They are 19 by 8.5 in the front and 19 by 9.5 in the rear. And I don't know the offsets on these. I really don't. I bought these from John used a long time ago. So, and I don't think he knows the offsets either. But no, I always think 19s look good on a Z32. They fill out the wheel arch well. 18s are great for performance. I have a second set of 18s that I run for track use, and actually a third set of 18s that I run for track use. So I usually keep 2 revolving sets of track wheels and tires, and then these are my showy wheels. The 19s kind of, it's like putting on a fancy watch to go out for a dinner date. And that's my Z32.